guess with all the money printing deficits, they didn't have enough paper left to print these documents, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the Minister of Inflation for her presentation today. It reveals that inflation is in fact 50% higher than she promised in the... Yesterday, when I asked about the 850,000 Canadians who've lost their jobs, giving Canada the highest unemployment rate in the G7, the Prime Minister told a childish joke, and he sat down and smirked. He should know that for every 1 percentage point increase in unemployment, we get a 2 percentage point increase in suicides. This is people's lives at stake. They want to know how they're going to pay the bills. We have the worst job record in the G7. Will we get a plan for paychecks, or is the Prime Minister just going to sit there and smirk?
The Honourable Minister.
Just because the Prime Minister dressed up in racist costumes so many times he can't remember them all doesn't mean every single Liberal is a racist. Just because the Prime Minister had tried to help a corporation avoid prosecution after it stole from some of Africa's poorest people doesn't mean all Liberals are racist. Just because about a half dozen Liberal MPs who are racial minorities have complained about his treatment of them does not mean that all Liberals are racist. That is guilt by association. Why doesn't the Prime Minister opt instead for personal responsibility? I guess with all the money printing deficits, they didn't have enough paper left to print these documents, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the Minister of Inflation for her presentation today. It reveals that inflation is in fact 50% higher than she promised in the budget. Wow. And the deflation that she said we'd have a year ago has definitely not materialized. $500 billion of inflationary deficits mean more dollars chasing fewer goods and higher prices. The result, of course, is that housing and gas is up by a third, making it hard for people to get to work or house themselves. Food prices will rise $1,000 for the average family next year, and not to mention that taxes cost the average family more than food, clothing, and shelter combined. The more this government spends, the more Canadians pay. And to add insult to injury, we learned today that the government is collecting a windfall of tax revenue as they get higher taxes on higher prices. It's called the inflation tax, or as Liberals would say, just inflation. So my question is a very specific one. How much in extra tax revenue will the government collect as a result of higher than expected inflation on the backs of Canadian consumers? Now, Mr. Charest learned about the trucker convoy on CBC, like other Liberals, and he misrepresented them. He believes that I should be censored. He believes I should be canceled from this leadership race and disqualified, in his words, because I don't share his Liberal viewpoint. That is the kind of cancel culture and censorship you would expect from Justin Trudeau, but instead we're getting it from this Liberal on this stage. And frankly, Mr. Charest, for you to talk about law and order is a little bit rich, given that your party, your Liberal Party, took $500,000 of illegal donations when you were the head of that party. The average trucker has more integrity in his pinky finger than you had in your entire scandal-plagued Liberal cabinet. Then we have here an email from Craig Kielburger to Bill Morneau. And, you know, we'd love to learn about the attached documents in it, but unfortunately, in what is to become a trend throughout this package, it's all the relevant information in the two documents are completely blacked out. Another email from Craig Kielburger that went to someone in the government the same day he spoke to Bill Morneau on the phone, but we don't know who received the email, that's blacked out, or what the email said, all blacked out. Here's an email from the minister responsible for the department that granted the $500 million to her top bureaucrat. Again, all the substance is blacked out. And that would not be the first time. Next page, blacked out. This page, blacked out. This page, blacked out. This page, blacked out. Why don't we ask what's in those pages at a parliamentary committee? Well, I'll tell you why. Justin Trudeau shut down those parliamentary committees. When did he do it? The same day these documents became public. What a coincidence. The Prime Minister goes to the Governor General's office and says, Gigi, I'm about to release some very damning information, but I've covered it in black ink, and if you'll just shut down Parliament for me today, then none of the opposition politicians can force me to remove that ink and reveal the truth. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a cover-up.
The extreme element kind of latch onto the truck convoy you supported.
Well, you know what I think is interesting is that when there's a left-wing protest on Parliament Hill, we don't see the Liberal media going through every single name of the people who attends to try and find one person that they can disparage the whole group with. You know, we don't see CBC, for example, has been accused by its own employees of systemic racism. And yet we don't see the media here generalize that everyone who works at the CBC is a racist. Whenever you have 5,000 or 10,000 people who are part of any group, you're bound to have a number who have or say unacceptable things. And they should be individually responsible for the things they say and do. But that doesn't mean we disparage the thousands of hard-working, law-abiding, and peaceful truckers who, quite frankly, have kept all of you alive the last 2 years by filling your grocery shelves with the food that you eat and filling your homes with the products that you rely upon. So I think that it is possible to hold individually responsible anyone who says or does anything unacceptable, while showing support for the hardworking, law-abiding, peace-loving truckers who are fighting for their freedom and their livelihoods, and on whom we have depended for our very existence over the last 2 years.
No question, Mr. Chair. Prime Minister, you twice were found guilty of breaking the Ethics Act. After those 2 convictions, did you decide to read the Act?
You got 14 seconds, Prime Minister.
Yes, I have read the Act a number of times.
Are you aware of Section 21?
Yes, since I've read the Act, I'm aware of Section 21.
What does it say?
I can pull it up for you, but if you have it in front of you, you can remind me.
Well, it says a public office holder, of which you are one, shall recuse himself or herself from any discussion, decision, debate, or vote in any matter in which, in respect of which he or she would be in a conflict of interest. Now, what you've admitted today is not just that you were in a conflict of interest, but that you consciously recognized in your May cabinet meeting that such a conflict might exist. That it didn't just slide by your desk, that you were consciously aware that there was an inappropriate link to your family that would put you in a conflict. Why did you, at that moment, not call the ethics commissioner and recuse yourself?
That is simply not true, Mr. Poilievre. The issue of advancing issues for one's own. And by the way, the ethics commissioner is looking into this right now, and I fully trust his judgment on determining it. But at the same time, my concern around recusing myself was a question around perceptions, because I knew full well that this Canada Summer Students Grant Program was not going to directly benefit my mother or my brother.
Your 16 seconds are up. Your 16 seconds are up. I'm going to ask you again, because nobody believes you when you say you don't know how much money your family has got from the We Group. So you've had a month to look into that. You knew you were going to testify here. Again, how much money total have your brother, mother, and spouse received from this organization? How much?
That information has been publicly shared, but I will highlight.
Well, then tell me what it is.
My mother
How much?
has
Just the dollar
worked,
figure.
throughout her life.
The dollar figure,
in
Prime Minister.
various ways, and is
How
proud
much?
of the work that she's done, and I'm proud of her.
How
as well.
much? I'm looking for a dollar figure.
We can get that number for you if you like. It's been out in the media.
It's
I don't
been in the
have it in
media,
front
but
of
you
me.
don't know it?
I don't have it in front of me, and quite
You don't
frankly,
know how much your family has received from this organization, which you tried to give $500 million, really?
Can I answer, Mr. Paul?